Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's conversation on the YouTube Creators Hub podcast. My name is Dusty Porter, as always, the host of the show, joined today by Cam Nicholls. Now, Cam has two YouTube channels, both of them very successful. The first one's called Road Cycling Academy. That one is nearing 60,000 subscribers. And then the other YouTube channel, which is just his name, Cam Nicholls with two L's, that has almost 200,000 subscribers and just over 330 some odd videos. So Cam knows what he's talking about. Let me tell you a little bit about Cam, though, before we get started. 36 years old. He broke away from the corporate kind of cyclical thing that happens when you're in corporate, and he started a cycling marketplace. From there, he says he stumbled upon YouTube, but you'll see as we go on that I think that he had a very much a good knack for it. Now he's a cycling YouTuber and road cycling coach. He has the two channels that I just mentioned, and I'm really excited to have him here on the podcast. Cam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. That's a great intro. I particularly like the two L's and the Nicholls because my dad's always on to people about that. So well done.
Yeah, I saw that. And when I was typing it, doing some pre-show stuff, I was like, man, that 2L, the double L is going to throw me off. So I had to make sure I put a note in there for that.
I like it.
My old business of radio, that was one of the big things when there was someone who had a name spelling, a little bit different to make sure you said that in the opening or intro. So, all right, so let's get started. So we have Road Cycling Academy, which is your YouTube channel with just under 60K subscribers, and then you had the Cam Nicholls channel. So we'll talk about them kind of in tandem as we discuss things today. Can you give me the origin story? You were in corporate, and then you moved to kind of the cycling marketplace, and then you got into YouTube. Give us the whole journey. Don't leave anything out. How did this whole thing come to be?
Yeah, so in 2017, I basically got fired from my corporate job. I say basically because I got ahead of the curve and I handed in my resignation because I knew I was about to get fired. I used to work for American software companies. I was, I guess, a glorified sales rep. We had big, long sales cycles, and I lost two big deals in as many months for this company. So instead of jumping into another software sales gig, on the side for probably 3 to 4 years, I'd been dicking around with this cycling marketplace that you mentioned up front with my brother-in-law. I had a bit of capital saved up because we were saving for a renovation. I spoke to my wife and I said, look, sliding doors situation here. I know we've got a mortgage. I know we've got kids. There's a lot of stresses, but I'd love to have a go at this cycling marketplace. And she said, no worries, go for it. So I went full-time on this cycling marketplace it turned out to probably be about 18 to 24 months. During that journey, we had to build the website to get traffic to the website. So we were writing blog articles, and we had this SEO expert that came around and spoke to us. The marketplace was called Bike Chase, and there was four of us in the team. So he spoke to four of us at Bike Chase, and he said, if you really want to make your articles pop and do better on Google rankings, you need to improve your time on page. So the best way to do that is to make videos and put a video into your articles. And we were doing bike reviews and things like this. So I picked up my wife's old Canon DSLR camera, flicked it into video mode, and started playing around with video. And this was probably 12 months into my bike chaser journey. And I just started falling in love with making videos, completely random, never done it before, just loved the creative side. And what I used to do is I'd do all my bike chaser work during the week and write articles, and we were trying to bring on bike shops to the platform as well. And all the bits and pieces that you do, we're trying to get a business off the ground. And on the weekends, I was editing and making these videos. And there came a point in time with the bike chaser journey, trying to get a marketplace off the ground when you've got no experience. We realize now it was a stupid idea, but we did it. We had to go anyway. And obviously the silver lining was I found video, and I realized probably 12 months into Bike Chaser that the light at the end of the tunnel was still too far away. And I was loving making videos, and we were putting the videos on YouTube as the hosting platform. And it was probably around this time as well, one of the videos just started getting heaps of views out of nowhere. And I'm like, what's going on here? Because the videos were intended for our website. So they were just a slow burn in terms of views. And what had happened is the video had been picked up by the algorithm. So I was thinking to myself, wow, this is really cool. And people were subscribing to the Bike Chaser channel at the time. And I'm like, I really like what's going on here. I could build a business here. So I said to my business partners in Bike Chaser, secretly knowing in the back of my head that I might want to go full-time on YouTube at some point in the next 6 to 12 months. Do you mind if I create my own Cam Nicholls channel? And because I'm doing all this work on the weekend and making videos, I'll put the Bike Chaser videos on my channel. And they said, yep, no worries. So that's how kind of my channel started secretly on the side. And then at some point, I think it was 2019. So it was about 18 to 24 months after we started Bike Chaser. We all decided it wasn't going to work out. Thankfully, I had been building this channel on the side to a certain degree, and I just went all in on my own channel, probably around 2019, I would say. So that's how I ended up into YouTube. Do you want me to continue going to the Road Cycling Academy?
Yes. So
Or do
the
you want to pause there for a sec?
the Road Cycling Academy is another YouTube channel. So once you get the YouTube bug, man, it kind of it goes down the hill really fast, and you start getting the itch, and next thing you know, you have two YouTube channels, right? So explain the next channel, how that came to happen.
So when I fully committed to my channel, and I basically had let Bike Chaser go, I invested in an online course on how to get a YouTube channel off the ground. And I'm really glad I did this because it really focused on how to make money on YouTube, because YouTube is not an easy place to make money. And to be honest, I'm still learning, despite the fact that I've got, some would say, two sizable channels. The 5 ways that they really articulated that you make money on YouTube. One is obviously the Google ads, which you don't make a lot of money on. So I think for me, depending on the year, I'll make anywhere between 30 to 40,000 Australian dollars. This is just off my personal Cam Nicholls YouTube channel. I think the Road Cycling Academy makes about $15,000 last year in terms of ad revenue. So maybe combined, so 65,000 Australian dollars. So what's that, 40,000 USD in ad revenue. So, even 6 years later, which I am now on YouTube, it's not that great, the ad revenue. You can make money off merchandise. You can make money off, so that's the second channel, merchandise. There's a plenty of YouTube partners which you can partner with, and it's all, they print on demand stuff. I've never gone down that path because I'm not good with merch. You can do affiliates is the third channel. So you can take a product and earn an affiliate commission. In the cycling industry, the affiliate partnerships and opportunities seem to be really poor. I have explored it in quite some depth, so I've never really gone down that path. Brand deals is the fourth opportunity. So you have a video that's sponsored by a particular brand, or maybe a full dedicated video towards a particular brand. At the start of my journey, I thought that was the nirvana of how I was really going to make a lot of money on YouTube. And yes, you can, but it's also a very fine art on how you bring in sponsors into your video, because if you have built trust and rapport with an audience, and you've never delivered ads before, and all of a sudden you start doing it, you will get a bit of backlash. And it's a fine art on how you bring them in. And I'm still learning that fine art, to be honest. So that, nirvana that I thought of, making lots of money on YouTube, brand deals and sponsorships, it's not what I thought it was going to be at the time. And it's still good, don't get me wrong. And I'm probably making in that channel right now, maybe anywhere between, this year's actually going to be probably my best year, to be honest, because I took on, after all the learnings and mistakes that I made with brand deals, I took on 3 specific partners, and I'm sort of exclusively working with those. And I had an annual agreement with all of them. We can go into that if you want at some point, but I'll continue on. So brand deals was the other one. And this is where the Road Cycling Academy comes in. So I'm circling back to your question here. In this course, they said the fifth pillar of making money, and perhaps the most important, is you've got to have your own thing that you own that adds value to the audience. Mm-hmm. So it could be a product, could be a service, but it's got to be something. So about 6 months after maybe it was 8 months after I'd started my YouTube journey, I had maybe 7 or 8,000 subscribers, around that size. I actually partnered with my old road cycling coach, because in my journey of cycling, and this is going to be very cycling specific, but I had sort of hit a performance plateau, because what happens in road cycling, people ride for like 2 or 3 years, they improve, and then they hit a plateau. Mm-hmm. And you can only get so far by just riding. You need to start incorporating some structure into your training. So I did that with a coach. I improved significantly, and I thought, wouldn't it be great if we could create an online course teaching people the training methodologies that I learned to take my performance to the next level. So that's in 2019. It was about mid 2019. We released this package course with my old coach called the Up-Level Road Cycling course, which had like 15 video tutorials and 2 downloadable programs. And then I released that, and it did well in the first month. Got all the low-hanging fruit in terms of, people that were watching my videos that wanted something like this. And then it just, like, we could go down the rabbit hole. Online courses if you want as well, because I've been doing that now for 3 or 4 years. But what ended up happening is I sort of learned the process of online courses and funnels and stuff, and I became a coach myself. And then at some point in 2020, I decided to separate this course and create another entity called the Road Cycling Academy. During that time, I had 2 videos per week on my channel. One was on Fridays, which was my Friday vlog. I called it the Friday vlog series. And Wednesday, I had a show. It was called the RCA Training Tip Show, and it was all about training. And that was part of the process of me learning how to constantly build traffic and build the top of the funnel into the course. And what I did is I separated that RCA Training Tip Show, which was every Wednesday on my channel, created the Road Cycling Academy channel, created a separate business. And now, fast forward to now, that business, as you know, from a YouTube perspective, has 60,000, around 60,000 subscribers, but we've got about 8 people that work in that business. One's full-time, the rest are contractors. And it's growing. And now I'm kind of in this position where I have these 2 YouTube things, which I get torn between. We sort of talking about this at the start of the conversation, but I love doing both of them. And it's really interesting. People say it's hard to make money off YouTube, but the Road Cycling Academy, and that is a business which now has 8 people working for it and is growing. And the brand awareness, like even in Australia, I went to a big cycling event recently, and it was amazing how many people know who we are now. We're almost like a well-known coaching brand in Australia. This all came from YouTube. It's pretty amazing that it's all come from this platform that we're talking about being YouTube. So I'm going to pause there because I've just given you a massive earful, but that's basically how the Road Cycling Academy now sort of was spawned from my channel and how they both now operate.
So, Cam, I have to say, you are the perfect podcast guest. That's the kind of thing that I want. Sometimes when I ask people to give me their story, it lasts about 30 seconds, and there's no way you can tell a full journey in 30 seconds. And so I appreciate you getting so detailed, and you can tell you're a detailed person, which is important when it comes to YouTube. So I do want to dive into a few of the things specifically. So we'll talk about brand deals here shortly in a few minutes, but I want to ask you, now that you've grown both of these YouTube channels and you were someone who wasn't a YouTube creator and now, you suddenly became one. So with that being the case, what are a few things, 2, 3, 4 things that you would attribute to the success of the channels? Because a lot of people tell me all the time, well, you can't really start a brand new YouTube channel now or, the past few years, which I believe is absolute just garbage. Of course, you can start a YouTube channel if you're willing to put the time and effort in. But can you give my audience 2 or 3 things maybe that you can point to of like, hey, I did this, and when I did this, I really saw results from that action? Specifically around the YouTube side of things.
Yes. So there's 3 keys to success in terms of getting videos off the ground. Number 1 is a good title. And I'm going pretty basic here, but this is sometimes I need to think about these 3 things because I forget. Is a title. The next one is a thumbnail. And the third one, which I think a lot of people get wrong, is audience retention. And I feel that retention has become harder and harder in recent times because of the growth of Instagram stories and TikToks and all these type of things where people are consuming information, like just swiping really quickly. And it wasn't until I really leaned into that, and time is money. People have so many things that they can watch. You really got to focus on ensuring that you're getting the interest right in the thumbnail and the title, and then the retention. And what I mean by retention is, you've got to hook people into the video, and you can't waste anyone's time. I was recently just having a chat last night with another YouTuber where his video was, I was giving him some feedback because he asked for some feedback, and I was saying, the video was a bit long, and I was talking about how you can condense certain parts just so you're really optimizing people's time and they're getting a lot of information in one particular scene. So he was like showing scenes of him riding in a nice area, but there was just a bit of music in the background. What I said you could do is incorporate those scenes of you riding. It was a nice beach drop, beautiful sunset, but then maybe have some overlay of you talking about, because he was doing a testing protocol, what the testing protocol is versus talking about the testing protocol prior, and then actually showing scenes of him riding, just combining those both and condensing the video. So there's just a lot of information happening at one particular point in time. So circling back to your question, when I really started to focus on how can I take this video that I've created, how can I take this script? So I'll script the full video. That's probably one good point as well. Whenever I do a video, I'll write down the whole thing, everything that I'm going to say word for word, and then I'll analyze that and say, okay, have I overlapped here? Have I said the same thing twice? Is this really necessary? And sometimes I will actually, once I script it and I think it's necessary and I'm watching it back, I'm like, actually, that whole 30 seconds that I'm talking about, that particular thing, I don't really need that because the audience has probably figured that out up front.
Mm-hmm.
So I really get quite harsh on myself in terms, and other people when they ask for feedback on the time is money. You've really got to, don't waste anyone's time, get straight to the point. And while you're doing that, the other key critical thing is you want to try and tell a story, right? And if you can incorporate a story that involves your personal experiences with something, it's a lot more powerful, and people love to hear the story, and that's part of hooking them in. So if you're talking about a product review, even it's, might be about this mug. I'm holding up a mug here. Rather than just talk about the features, you can get straight into it by talking about the features of the mug and the color of the mug and what it looks like. But while I'm doing that, I'm also going to say, the reason why I bought this mug and talk about a personal story. This is obviously very basic. I don't know if there's any mug channels out there, but talk about, an interesting story that happened with this mug or why I purchased this mug, and it might be relating to family or kids or an emotional thing. So I think combining those two things together, i.e., don't waste anyone's time, get straight to the point, and try and keep it as short and simple as possible. Most of my videos are around 10 minutes, and I know YouTube's going more. In a lot of industries, it seems to be long form content is doing really well at the moment. But I still think, if you're delivering a standard YouTube video, you've got to have that mindset of not wasting anyone's time, getting straight to the point, in conjunction with trying to deliver a story that's really interesting at the same time, because that's what hooks people in. And if you can get that audience retention right, which is actually really hard and it's really tricky, and you've got the right title and thumbnail, then the algorithm will do the work. One area where people get stuck is when they first start a YouTube channel. It's like, no one's watching my video. So how can the algorithm do its work when no one's watching my video? So there you've got to, look for strategies of, using your other channels to get views. So maybe you've got some Facebook followers, maybe you've got some Instagram followers. When I first started, I was going into forums and looking for threads relating to a certain bike that I might have reviewed or something like that. And dropped, here's a review that I've done on this particular topic if anyone's interested. And another good way as well is, interviewing or doing a bit of content with somebody else on your channel that's got a following, and they'll share it, and then you get views that way. And the other one that I did as well that worked quite well was bike reviews. Being in cycling, obviously, bikes are a key part of what we do, and they're expensive. They're anywhere between 10, 15 to $20,000 for a top end bike these days, or for an entry level road bike for some of these key brands, it's $5,000. So it's a lot of money. So people do a lot of research on YouTube looking for stuff. And I was also leveraging sort of search and SEO. So like the specialized tarmac was one of my first reviews. A lot of people type in specialized tarmac. So, I was getting views that way as well. And while I this is going to sound strange because I'll share this to my audience, and if they're listening, I don't really like doing bike reviews. They've always been a necessary evil. They were a necessary evil to get the channel off the ground because people search for them and it was SEO. But I've kept doing it. And the reason why I say people that support my channel will be surprised by what I'm saying, because I still do bike reviews today because I've built a brand in doing bike reviews. And there are certain parts to bike reviews that I really enjoy because I've now separated it into a project where you do a first look and you do a build of the bike, and then you do a first impressions, and then you do a review. So it's no longer just a review. But they, for me, were a necessary evil to get the channel off the ground. So, people out there listening, your audience, it's like, well, okay, my industry is this. What are some, I'll go, and there's tools that you can use where you can just go onto YouTube and search for things. What are some things in my industry that are, got big views that people seem to be interested in? I'll create a product review on that. And as much as I may not want to do that, look at it as a necessary evil to get discovered, because getting discovered is initially pretty hard. But once you've got discovered, once your videos are getting a few views, then it's all about good title, good thumbnail, and that audience retention is so important.
Yeah, I think that to talk about a couple of things briefly, what you just mentioned, the retention is so key because if you are starting out, you may not be getting many views, but the 5, 10, 20 views that you get, YouTube, the algorithm's looking at how long did they watch it. Did the 10 people that watched your video bounce off in the first 30 seconds, or did they consume the content thoroughly? And if they did, then the video is going to get promoted more, and it's kind of like a snowball going down a hill. It gets bigger and bigger. That's kind of how that goes there. And then as far as like you not liking the bike reviews, I tell people this all the time when they hire me for coaching on their YouTube channel. There are some low-hanging fruit for all of us as creators if we're just willing to put in the research. And in the southern part of the United States here, we say, find what butters your bread. That's an old-time saying, right? To find out what really works for you, what's going to bring the people in, what's going to bring the money in. So for me, early on for my technology tutorial channel, it was showing people how to live stream. That was a new thing back then, 10, 11 years ago. I didn't necessarily like talking about those types of software because it wasn't interesting to me at the time. I've since kind of made it more interesting, but those videos would go on to get 1 million, 3 million, 7 million, some of them views over the lifespan of the video. And so knowing that was kind of a necessary evil of what's working for my channel. So for instance, if you are a channel that talks about mugs or coffee or whatever it may be, you may not like to do reviews of coffee makers or whatever the example may be, but that may be what's bringing people in as a necessary evil. So Cam, that's a really good point that you made there. I do want to kind of touch briefly and ask you, when it comes to retention and keeping people on video, which is what YouTube just cares about on site, right? On platform. How long are they staying on YouTube? That way they can watch more ads and YouTube gets paid more, right? It's all a business at the end of the day. So when it comes to retention and watch time and all the big buzzwords that people throw around, what are some things that you implemented? You mentioned the storytelling, which is a big one. I completely agree. What are some other things that you've implemented or that you've done that you can see concrete results of, okay, I know this really has helped my retention in the long run?
Yeah, so definitely storytelling is so critical. I also normally, and I've kind of, it's interesting in the last probably 3 to 6 months, I've incorporated actually more of a storytelling intro into because the first 30 seconds is so important, right? And YouTube actually has that, if you look at the audience retention graph, they monitor the first 30 seconds. They give you the graph, how many people have you held after the first 30 seconds. But what I used to do, and I think can also be, for people that may not want to do storytelling or they're still learning and they're not confident to do it, is just to tell people what they're going to get in the video as soon as they click on it. So if you're doing a mug review, we're going back to
I love this mug.
Yeah. Good mug. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing this mug and I'm going to be telling you the 5 things that I like about this mug. So immediately the person that's clicked on the video, it's like, okay, I'm getting what I clicked on. So we're confirming what it is. And I'm going to give you 5 reasons why I like the mug. So now the dopamine's kicking off in the back of the head. Oh, I wonder what the 5 are. I wonder if those 5 reasons are what my 5 reasons would be. So definitely, if you can split the video into parts or sections, that's really good for audience retention. I've found. There's actually a YouTuber in our space at the moment. Francis Cade is his name, and he's just gone. He's grown. He's probably the biggest independent cycling YouTuber, and he's just gone all in on the top 10 or the top 8, the top 7. He's just all his videos are top this, top that, and his videos are going absolutely nuts, like really crazy. And I'm thinking, well, should I do more top 10 videos? Which I've done in the past, but I think it's a really easy way for people to consume, and you move really quickly. You know what I mean? If you've got 10 minutes and you're doing the top 10 things, you're spending a minute on each thing. So I feel that's a good way for audience retention. Also, like, don't sit in the same spot, move around. So I've recently moved into a studio back end of last year. So I've moved out of this is my wife's office now. This was mine for 5 years making videos. But I'd sit in front of the computer and I'd talk about something. And then I'd sit in front of a bike and talk about something. And then I'd stand up and there would be like a stand behind me and I'd talk about something. And this is all in the same room, right? But I'm constantly moving around, changing scenes so people don't get bored. And the other key thing is make sure you're delivering really, interesting information all throughout the video, because that will hold audience. It's simple, but that will hold audience retention as well. If you give everyone all the best information up front, and then it just turns into someone waffling on about, whatever that product is, then you're going to lose that audience retention really quickly. But you do want to give them something really good up front, whatever it might be, but you want them to not get everything, and you want them to know that they're not getting everything. And then you slowly deliver the rest of whatever that is throughout the video. So that would be my critical things that I'm doing. So you're breaking it up into pieces. So it might be 5 parts, 6 parts, 5 parts, and it doesn't have to be a top 10 video, but it can be a video about something. And in the video, you're saying, today I'm going to talk about this, and we're going to break it into X amount of parts, so people know. And then moving around and breaking up the scene. So you've got, if it's a 10-minute video, I'd have at least 5 different scenes where I'm in different parts of somewhere.
I think of it a lot like a radio teaser, where you're teasing what you're going to be talking about. You give them just enough to kind of whet their appetite of, you want them to know they want to dive into the video, but not so much as to where you kind of give it all to them up front and they're done within 30 seconds, because we live in a world where people consume content with swiping up and down within a few seconds. Once they get that dopamine hit, they're moving to the next, to the next, to the next. But you want to have a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of story narrative that gets them, through that plot of the video without actually giving them the answer, right? So for me, early on doing tutorials and how-to content, I learned not to do a very long, drawn-out intro. People hate that crap. I had a very cool intro designed for me by someone that I paid a lot of money for back in the day, and I just scrapped it because I found out through looking at data that people were falling off during the intro. They don't care about that. They want the answer to their question. And I got straight to the point by saying, hey, in today's video, you're going to learn how to do X, Y, and Z. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Boom, we're right into the video. They're right to learning, and then we don't have to worry about the fluff that you put at the beginning and the end of the video. So I completely agree with what you're saying. Man,
and I like what you've just said there. The intros, just get rid of them. There's no need for them, unless it's like a second and it establishes who you are and your brand. Like GCN is a big one in our space, and they've got this very quick GCN, and then it moves on. That's fine.
It's fine.
But if you're, as you said, if you're looking at your audience retention graph and there is one person falling off your intro, let alone 1,000, get rid of it.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. All right, so what is something that you wish you would have known sooner? Like, we've talked about all these things that you've done well, all the accolades of the 2 channels, and so much success for you. But what is something that you look back on and you're like, man, I wish I would have known that sooner? Or, here's a failure that I had that I really, learned from. Like, what would those things or thing be?
I've got a good one for you. So, when I first started to get brand deals, so I think Squarespace, or maybe it was Surfshark, were the first ones that came to me. I was about 50 to 60,000 subscribers, and I was like, yes, I've made it.
Yep.
Brands are reaching out to me. I'm going to get some deals. And it wasn't much money for a 60-second integration. I think I started off with 600 USD. $600 USD for a 60-second integration. And I just started to do them. And I did, one thing I noticed up front was people skip through that part.
Absolutely.
What happens when it's 3 or 4 minutes in and you go, this video is brought to you by Surfshark, and you go through whatever, and you'll see, if you look at your audience retention, there's a dip and people, just skip through it. And you do lose people as well. It doesn't go back to where it when the ad started to where it finishes. People do skip through, but not everyone. Some people just drop off. So that was an interesting learning. I'm like, okay, but anyway, I kept going because I'm like, I had built this up in my head. This is how I was going to make good money on the channel. So I kept speaking with these brands, and then they're like, well, we want you to deliver X amount of ads in this amount of time, and we'll sign a contract. I'm like, cool, let's do it. Sign the contract. Then things get busy, life gets in the way. People have, families. I've got 2 kids. I've got a wife who's also got her own small business as well, and she's got her own hobby being surfing. Like, it's just nuts. So sometimes you can't produce videos, but I had a KPI to deliver a certain amount of ads. So I ended up, for a period of time, and I don't know how long the period was, but it was probably, say, maybe 6 to 8 months, where there was a few months in that period where I was delivering a video purely to deliver an ad. And it was crap content. I don't know if I can swear on your podcast, but it was crap content. And the audience, a lot of the audience knew that. And I feel like I burned some of my audience and through that process. And I vowed to never do that again. I didn't feel good doing it. And when I reflect and look at the views and some of the comments in those videos, like it is my biggest regret on YouTube. So my learning from that is push back on these brands and say, yeah, look, I'm willing to do that, but I want full freedoms of when I can put the ad in. I don't want to have pressure on me. And like, some brands will say, okay, see you later. And other brands, the 3 brands that I work with now, are like, yep, no worries. That's cool. That's cool with us. If you get to it when you can get to it, integrate it when it makes sense. Because even sometimes if you've got a video and it just doesn't make sense in that video to deliver an ad because it's going to ruin your story, you don't want to have to be forced to put it in there. But when like some of my partners now, like I've got a ketone supplement, they're called Ketone IQ. If I'm talking about nutrition and training, it makes a lot of sense to do a Ketone IQ integration. Or another partner I've got is a power meter company. So if I'm doing bike tests, speed tests, and I'm using the power meter as the benchmark for the speed test, it makes a lot of sense to talk about that. You know what I mean? So I now will only do an integration where I feel comfortable with it and it makes sense for me.
And it makes for better ads too. I found when the ads are natural, and even for like podcasting, when I do podcast reads, I told the partners, and I've now had about 4 or 5 people. The good news for me is I've had one partner that's been with me for a decade, and they've been so good to work with, even through kind of company changes and things like that. But I told everybody that I work with, I said, I do not want a script read. I do not want the reads to be scripted. I want them to be natural from me. I use this product. It's why that I reached out to you. It's why when you contacted me, I was okay with it. And like TubeBuddy, it was the sponsor of this show. They have been for a decade. I've used them forever. I use them every day when I do my YouTube stuff. So it's very natural for me just to explain, hey, listen, guys, you get a free 30-day trial, right? Like, it's very easy. The read comes easy, and there's more conversions, and there's more things that are bought from those ads, and they're not skipped through, like you said, when they're natural and they fit in the video. So I absolutely love that. In closing of today's interview, I want to ask you, Kim, what's next for you? Like you talked about this year being probably one of your better years, so far. So what's next for you, like short term, long term, for the YouTube stuff? Like, what are you looking to do? What are you looking to implement? And then we'll close out.
Yep. It's a good question. And I do get asked this quite a lot just from people. Oh, what are your plans with your YouTube channel this year? And what's happened because of the Road Cycling Academy, and that's morphed into a business, which I'm so very grateful for. And as I said, to be able to create your own business and brand through YouTube, I'm still have to pinch myself sometimes that's occurred. Really, most of the strategic stuff that we're doing is over at the Road Cycling Academy. And what we want to focus on over there, because that's morphed into a traditional coaching business. I want to go back to your digital assets, online courses, and I want to spend more time over at the Road Cycling Academy working on that. And we actually got a videographer that's going to help us create those, so it won't be me doing it. But just the day-to-day operations of the Road Cycling Academy now, it consumes a lot of my energy. The strategic stuff, the business stuff, the planning ahead and all that kind of stuff, that's over there. So where I see my channel now, it's more like, it's almost become like a hobby where I do it when I can get to it. I used to be dictated by, consistency. And that was another mistake that I made going back to the previous question, was trying to be consistent and having a video every Friday. And that too maybe create some crap content. And it doesn't need to be that way. People just want to see good content. So that's what I've realized now. And sometimes on my channel, I'm a bit slow because of it. I didn't do a video over the summer holidays for 6 weeks. So be it. You know what I mean? Like if the video is good when I publish that first video, and the algorithm will do the work. So I just now, when I've got an idea that this is last video I did was about a bike seat, right? Completely random, but it was just this idea that came to my head because of an experience that I had. And I made this video about it because I wanted to do it. It was just something that was in my head. I had a bit of time that week. So I made the video, and the video's done it. I think it's had 65,000 views so far in a week. And that's kind of how I'm treating my channel. It's just like when opportunities come, with a bike company comes, and I've got a bit of time to do a project with them, I'll do it. If an idea pops into my head randomly and I want to do it, I'll do it. So that's how I'm treating the channel. So probably not the answer that you wanted, but that's the truth.
No, I love that. That's exactly the answer I wanted. And I want to say before we close out, the point that you made is so critical about, you were creating videos just to run an ad. And the same thing goes for people when they get into YouTube just wanting to make money. It's a big mistake because you end up losing your passion. It's no fun. The videos suck. And you end up just publishing just to put ads on the video. And, once you get monetized, everyone's like, oh, that's the holy grail. That's when you're going to, no, it's not, right? There's other ways that you've got to, sell yourself and make money and do the things that really matter on YouTube. And it's not, running the ads. So I'm so thankful that you said that. And I'm so thankful that you joined me today. This has been an awesome interview. I'm going to have you back on maybe in about a year or so to do a follow-up interview, kind of where you're at. But Cam, you've been so gracious with your time, and I appreciate it very much.
No worries. Can I leave you with one more mistake that I reckon could be valuable to your audience for somebody
Absolutely.
who's still listening? But you talk about having a focus. One thing that I haven't been good at that I want to improve on my channel side, and it just popped in my head as I was wrapping up, saying I don't really have much of a plan for my channel. The one thing that I'm thinking about having a plan for is in road cycling, and this goes for any niche, right? There is a lot of sub niches that sit below it. When I do road cycling content, I'll do bike fitting content, I'll do road bike content, I'll do training content. I'm like full scattergun. Where I think the best channels who get the most consistent views, they're doing a sub niche within a specific vertical, really focusing on one particular thing. So there's a guy I'm thinking of in our niche. And he's very good as well. Like he's a very good presenter, but he's called Dylan Johnson, and all he does is training. It's only training, and it's all science-backed training. So he'll get the latest science paper, and he'll talk about how this particular paper relates to another paper, and he'll talk about his own training and bring a story into it. And his channel now, it's smaller than mine, but he's probably doing the best in the cycling industry in terms of views, probably in terms of his own brand loyalty, because he's just focused on that one sub niche, which is science-backed training. And that's all he's done for 5 years. So his whole audience is science-backed training, right? Whereas my audience is a bit of everything. So that's why sometimes I have really, really good views and sometimes not so good views. My videos can be a little bit hit and miss. And I think it's just because what the algorithm does is, it spits it out to a certain bit of your audience. And if it spits it out to the wrong part of your audience that may be like bike reviews and you're doing a training video, then the video is probably not going to do as well. Whereas if your audience is all on one specific sub niche, and you focused on that for a year, 2 years, whatever it might be, I think if you're doing YouTube right now, that's the place you've got to be, provided you're interested in it.
And finding what makes you unique, finding what your niche is and getting it. I completely agree. I love that. Really good stuff. Thank you again, Cam, and we'll talk to you next time.
No worries. Cheers, mate.